I have so many facets to my personality, going from really deep and to really superficial and really mature to really immature. And so each one of them gets something, you know. It's like I can do things in movies that I've never been able to do in records just because there's not the latitude.
On the 20th of May 1946, Cherilyn Sarkisian was born in El Centro, California. Her mother, Georgina Holt, was a struggling singer, and her father, John Sarkisian, was an Armenian farmer. Her life began in tough circumstances with a very unstable parent base, and it would prove to be a difficult journey into the world of music and film. However, a gritty and determined child had been born who would in subsequent years capture the hearts of millions of adoring fans worldwide. Cher's mother, Georgina, spent her early life travelling from town to town, singing for a country and western band and supporting her alcoholic father. At night they would retire to filthy shelters until she finally settled in a tenement block in LA. At the age of 18, she met John Sarkisian and fell immediately in love. Georgina thought that she had met her knight in shining armour with John, yet this was not to be, as she soon discovered after they got married. Her tough life quickly became even harder, and it was not long before Georgina wanted a divorce. Unfortunately, she fell pregnant before this could happen, and it would seem an abortion was the only option. On arriving at the clinic, she discovered that the conditions there were little better than the shelters she had been slumming in. So that avenue was ruled out, and she went ahead and had the baby. Quickly growing more desperate to leave her alcoholic partner, Georgina fled with her newly born child to start a new life. Each day continued to be a struggle, as the baby she named Cherilyn was dumped upon friends as her mother went to numerous auditions to sing in sleazy bars. However, she never abandoned the small child and always managed to put food on the table. Georgina had a strong determination driving her to a better life, and although she could have sought more conventional work, she was still a teenager and cried out for that big break in show business. A total of 4 unsuccessful relationships followed for Cher's mother. The outcome of her third marriage to John Southall was a second child called George Anne. The constant rotating of stepfathers and the 2 occasions where Cher's biological dad was taken back meant the young star-to-be was having a very unsettled childhood. Time and time again, Sarkisian let the family down as he spiralled out of control into a life of crime and drug addiction. Her mother divorced him for a second time, but later remarried him again. However, by this time Cher had disowned her father and had grown into a tough, determined street kid. Due to the absence of a father figure in her life, Cher had much more of a free rein than other kids her age. She had inherited a wild streak from John, and thus at the tender age of 14, she had her first sexual experience. He was an Italian neighbour called Jeff, and was much older than her. Jeff and Cher had quickly become friends, and she would often help him work on his car by handing him various tools. They talked about anything and everything, and the thrill-seeking teenager thought she had found her first true companion. However, he was often teased by his friends for associating with such a young girl, and on one occasion when they were meant to be going out for a burger, he ran into some of his friends and through embarrassment, dropped her like a stone. She felt humiliated and would not talk to him for quite some time. Eventually, Jeff managed to sweet-talk his way into her room and persuaded her to have sex. It was not the most earth-shattering of experiences, and from that day on, Cher would have nothing to do with him. She was learning fast about men, and these were valuable lessons for later life. Her mother, Georgina, continued to audition, always striving for that big break. Although her career was not looking much better, at least the domestic life was a little more stable. She had seemingly met her ideal man, who would provide for the family, and Gilbert Lapierre became the third husband. Suddenly, the family was thrown into a life of luxury, with holidays in Palm Springs, nice clothes, servants, flashy cars, and a fantastic house. It would appear that this time, Georgina had struck gold.
I had been wanting to do acting for, I figure it's about 8 years that I started trying to go out and get work, and then giving up and having to make a living and all that kind of stuff. And one night, my sister took me to see Pirates of Penzance in Los Angeles, and it was the night before closing night, and just as a favor, Linda Ronstadt did it. And so Linda's up there, I'm looking at Linda, and I'm thinking, this is crazy. I've got to go to New York and stop fooling around and get up on stage.
Although the newfound prosperity was great for the family, Cher found it difficult to adjust to the lifestyle. She had grown up into a streetwise kid, and at 16 felt very distant from the prim and proper girls she now mixed with at school. Also, she struggled academically due to undiscovered dyslexia. Her disregard for studies and tough attitude led to many raging wars within the household. After another heated exchange, she stormed out of the home and went to live with her new boyfriend, whose name was Sonny Bono. At 16 years old, the Californian girl was no prize catch. She had very low self-esteem and had developed a tough exterior in a desperate attempt to cover her many insecurities. Her crooked teeth, large nose, bad posture, poor skin, bandy legs and screw-you attitude meant at times that she was almost unapproachable. Her basic philosophy was to put up the barriers before anyone could get a chance to get to see the real her. It was this hard edge to Cherilyn Sarkisian which enabled her to drive through life and eventually succeed at the very top in the world of show business. Despite the fact she craved fame and fortune, the star-to-be had very little ambition at this time. All she really needed was stability, a surrogate father, and this she found in Sonny. Later, he also provided the first leg up in the long climb to the top. The couple first met in a Hollywood Boulevard coffee shop in November 1962. Contrary to popular belief, it was not love at first sight. Sonny, like Cher, did not exactly fit the bill as an ideal man. His dorky haircut and nasal voice didn't make him stand out in the crowd. They were not passionate about each other at first, but dated a few more times after they initially met through mutual friends. However, he was kind to the insecure teenager and made her feel respected and beautiful. At 27 and 11 years older than Cher, Sonny did have one major attribute that made her literally see stars. He was well connected in the world of show business. Already having worked as a recording artist and record producer, he had established a number of contacts within the industry. Although only on the fringe of success, Sonny Bono was almost a god in the eyes of the aspiring star. He in turn saw in her an underlying beauty, drive, and above all, talent. As time would tell, it was this partnership and exploitation of one another that would lead to a succession of hits and a #1 smash, I've Got You, Babe. Salvatore Philip Bono was born in Detroit on February the 16th, 1935, and was given the nickname Sonny by his mother. With 2 older sisters, the family moved to Los Angeles when he was 7. On arriving in the city of great opportunities, he was immediately struck by the show business glamour. After being unable to settle at school, he later dropped out and landed a number of different jobs, whilst also getting married and having a daughter. Sonny really wanted to be involved with the rock and roll scene that was sweeping the nation and the world. Above all, he desired to be a songwriter and make his millions by filling American homes with his ballads. At 21, he visited Specialty Records in Hollywood. Trying to promote some songs he had written, the Detroit hopeful met Harold Bastine, who was the boss of artist relations and promotions. Harold thought little of the music, but he did like Sonny's enthusiasm and desire to work in the industry. They could always do with up-and-coming kids who were willing to learn. Bastine made him a partner in his division, and soon Bono was working at full steam. His writing also started to improve, and this was enough to make his boss decide to give him a shot at recording. As work took a grip on him, his marriage started to take a back seat. Unfortunately, his songs failed to take off, and so did his attempt at running a record company. Sonny was a master of promotions, but his music and voice lacked the quality of the competition. But he was not deterred, and at this point Bono met Phil Spector, who was the owner of Phil's Records. He had come from New York, capitalised on Hollywood's black music scene, and soon created a strong empire. Sonny idolised him, and Spector would have a major influence on his life. Phil's major signing was his wife Ronnie, lead singer of the Ronettes, who had a major hit with Be My Baby. Yet all the success did not mean an easy life. The talented record promoter was so possessive of his woman that she became a virtual prisoner in her own home. Ronnie found herself unable to choose her own clothes, where she wanted to go, or who she wanted to go with. Maybe Spector was not such an ideal role model for Sonny to follow. Cher by now was living with Bono. She stayed at his apartment rent-free, but on the premise that she did the cooking and the cleaning. She did neither. Often not waking until late in the day, it was hard for the aspiring star to see where her big break was going to come from. To try and get the Californian kid mixing with the right people, Sonny would often take her along to Spector's Gold Star Studios, where he would play percussion from time to time. On one particular day, a backing singer failed to turn up, and Cher was literally thrown into the recording booth. Phil didn't care whether she was great or not, as long as she was in tune. It wasn't exactly the best debut by the singer we've come to know and love, but it was a start.
It's the weird things about us that we can look at ourselves and laugh about.
Cher later went on to record backup on a number of records over the next few months, including the heartbreaking hit of 1964, You've Lost That Loving Feeling by the Righteous Brothers. So the journey had begun. From finding herself with Sonny to laying down tracks with Spector, she was mixing with the right crowd, and there was no turning back now. 1962 saw the opening of the blockbuster film Cleopatra. The press whipped up a storm over the on and off screen romance of Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor, and the movie generated enormous media coverage. In 1964, Sonny Bono dreamt up the idea of a similar double act, Caesar and Cleo, a singing duo that he was sure would storm the pop charts. Their first record, entitled The Letter, crashed and burned. But the major feeling was that there was still life in this gimmick, and so they went on to record Love Is Strange. At the same time, the ambitious Bono managed to get the pair signed by Brian Stone under their own names. They cut together another song called Baby Don't Go, and both numbers were released on the same day in September 1964. The second record was far more successful, and the music industry saw the birth of Sonny and Cher. The couple's first major hit was in 1965 with I've Got You, Babe, and it went solid gold. It tells the tale of two lovers who are down on their luck with little money, but at the end of the day, material goods don't matter as long as they have each other. 1966 saw Cher perform Sonny's song Bang Bang, and this was her first big solo record. The Beat Goes On, released in 1967, was another top 10 tune. The American public were beginning to recognise and identify with the couple as their popularity continued to grow. During this time, it was Bono who was totally in control. Cher took a backseat as his girlfriend and just followed in awe while he was developing possessive behavioural traits similar to that of his idol, Spector. However, for the meantime, Cher was just happy to sit back and let her ambitious Detroit lover take full control over their developing careers. Along with the newfound fame came a number of stage shows and TV appearances. It has to be said that the two were not the most accomplished of performers. Cher would always seem to be staring and gazing into Bono's eyes, but the reality was that she was just too terrified to look at the audience. Nonetheless, by now the American youth culture had started to identify with the duo as the hippie movement continued to grow. Due to this unexpected popularity, Cher found she had lost something very precious to her, her freedom. The constant mobbing in public meant everyday life became almost impossible, and this was something she struggled to cope with. It was an aspect of her career, however, that was there to stay, as in the years to follow, her popularity would escalate to mammoth proportions. Although the couple had made the decisive breakthrough with the American public, they still hadn't managed to gain recognition within the established Hollywood industry. Bono's nasal voice and hippie image was looked upon by some as rather comical. He was also by now into his 30s. Cher's aloof behaviour and abrasive attitude meant she was deemed by some as arrogant and nothing but a prima donna. On one particular night, the Hollywood snubbing hit world proportions as they were asked by Princess Margaret to attend the World Adoption International Fund charity ball. Matters were not helped by the fact that famous names such as Bob Hope, Doris Day, Jane Russell and Rock Hudson were either performing or in the audience. The couple were extremely nervous. They could impress the teenagers, but now they had to entertain the greats. As they began, even the princess looked aghast. Due to a malfunction with the microphone, Cher was singing way too loud. In a desperate attempt to fix the problem, the sound engineer managed to cut them off altogether. Later, Sonny decided to make amends by doing some light-hearted stand-up, which resulted only in him causing offence. Finally, he performed a solo and was heckled so badly by one drunk that the entire star-studded audience burst into laughter. The Hollywood snobs had made it quite clear what they thought of the duo. Little did they know that the shy and insecure girl they were mocking would go on to outshine the lot of them. With dented pride and egg on their faces, the couple continued to tour, but this was something that Cher was beginning to feel more and more uncomfortable with. The experience at the fundraising ball was still at the back of Bono's mind, and he decided to turn to television appearances in the hope that he could get audiences to laugh with him instead of at him. More than anything, he wanted to be held in high regard. The result of this was a feature in the 1960s smash spy series The Man from U.N.C.L.E., starring Robert Vaughn and David McCallum. The show was now running into its third series and was beginning to decline in popularity. Starting out as a serious thriller, it was now becoming far too comical for American tastes, and this was reflected in the ratings.
You know, it's like someone said to me, what do you like doing better, movies or music? And I said, that's like asking me which one of my children I like better. Mm-hmm. You know, I love them both. You know, I love singing rock and roll. I like music. I love it. You know, I couldn't stop doing it. I mean, I'd still sing around the house if I wanted to. You can't act around the house.
The Sonny and Cher episode was entitled The Hot Number Affair. Bono had especially asked to appear, and the script was written specifically for them. The outcome was little better than previous episodes, and the couple just about managed to pull off the acting side of things. However, they both enjoyed the experience, despite Sonny being too slow in the fight scenes, resulting in him taking a few heavy blows from McCallum. The episode was screened on March the 10th, 1967, and really did nothing to enhance their reputations. However, it did give them both a taste of being in front of the camera, something that Cher would embrace and later excel at. Inspired by the Beatles' film A Hard Day's Night, Bono felt it was time they too should make a feature-length movie. He set about writing Good Times and made a deal with Columbia Pictures. He enlisted the help of documentarian William Friedkin, who went on to make his name with the cult classic The Exorcist. He wanted to make a film that would dazzle the audience, using all sorts of special effects and camera trickery. Above all, he needed the movie to give a real insight into Sonny and Cher, so the public could get a true feel for the couple. In the film, Cher and Sonny portray themselves in the process of shooting a movie. George Saunders stars as the director of the film. The couple don't like the script they are given, so they set about coming up with new ideas, and this is illustrated through fantasies. Cher's performance of the song Bang Bang serves to back up the picture, and a soundtrack album was released, although it did not sell well. The end result is a fairly pleasant movie. Both stars give plausible performances, even though the more experienced Saunders outshined them. The backstage atmosphere was none too different from the one portrayed in the film. The budding actress was not happy with the script and really wanted no part in the production. But she battled on, and showing her notorious grit and determination, finished the project. It would not be long before the one-time tough street kid would be back in front of the cameras. Things were still going well in 1967. The movie was released in June, and Cher had another solo top 10 single with "You'd Better Sit Down, Kids." Sonny also purchased a $1 million mansion from actor Tony Curtis. His partner's career was as strong as ever, but their song "Plastic Man" flopped in the charts. At this point, Bono felt very disheartened. His music was not selling, and his acting wasn't given much recognition. The driving force behind the duo was slowly being superseded by his protégé. Sonny's big dream was to move behind the scenes into film production. He knew the double act was fading fast as they approached a new decade, and even Cher's solo career had dried up for the meantime. They were also struggling to make the payments on their new luxury home. It was time to do another film, and this one had to be a success. The movie, entitled Chastity, is a picture aimed at the disaffected youth culture. It tells the tale of a young girl who is the product of an incestuous upbringing and who decides to hitchhike across the country in search of purity and truth. The script was hard-hitting and controversial. The job of directing fell to the inexperienced Alessio De Paolo. He was a little worried about the content and began to make alterations which detracted from the intended impact. Cher had liked the original script and was very excited about the project. On hearing about the changes, she was furious and was adamant that this was not going to be another flowery Sonny and Cher movie. She had now made a vital transition. The talented singer was aware that her career was far bigger than her partner's. She no longer felt scared about being alone in front of the cameras. In fact, she felt alive. The screening of the film still did very little for the couple's career. If the script had been left untouched, it most probably would have had greater success. However, Cher's true acting debut was looked upon favourably, and it showed that deep down she had true ability and an unrelenting passion that could only lead her towards more and more success. In late 1968, Cher fell pregnant, which was some cause for concern, as she had already endured 2 miscarriages. At this point, the couple decided to get officially married before the birth of their daughter, Chastity, who was named after the film. Coping with motherhood was always a bit of a struggle for the Californian star to cope with. Along with her fame came commitments and obligations. She was constantly in demand and in the public eye. This often meant having to spend large amounts of time away from her child, but she always knew that Chastity was in safe hands with her father. After the financial failure of the film, the Bonos were unable to maintain their ostentatious lifestyle. Yet a break was just around the corner. A TV mogul named Fred Silverman had seen a few of their acts and realised the pair had potential as a comedy duo. He landed them a spot on the Merv Griffin Show, where they performed so well that he set up the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour.
Had I not made it into acting, I would still be the same person I am. But people felt a weight to who I was after I started acting.
It was 1971, and Cher was approaching 25. The programme was produced by Alan Bly and Chris Beard, and had a $75,000 budget. They were surrounded by a number of supporting cast members, including the likes of Peter Cullen and black comic Freeman King. However, it was only Silverman who had high hopes for the show. Following the recording of a pilot episode, the series was commissioned. After the first season, the ratings were strong enough to grant a second spell, filling a Monday night slot starting December 1971. The comedy hour soon became a hit, as audiences loved the sketches, especially the ones Cher was involved in. She soon began to relax and became at ease with reading and learning the scripts. The show lasted 3 seasons, and the leading lady's confidence grew as she became a polished performer. It now seemed that Sonny was being pushed further into the shadows as her career leapt forward at an incredible speed. The couple started to drift further apart as Bono's attempts to control his wife became unbearable. He had taken a leaf out of Phil Spector's book, and Cher found herself a prisoner in her own home. The big bust-up occurred in Las Vegas, when the TV queen felt enough was enough. She walked out on him, and he filed for separation. Her response was to file for divorce. The dream was over, and the rollercoaster ride that had taken her from street kid to backing singer, and from Cherilyn Sarkisian to Cher Bono, had finally ended. She could now only look to whatever future lay ahead without the influence and organisation of her husband. The growing star soon found another man in her life, called David Geffen. He too had been involved in the music and film industry, and they lived together for some time. However, he was a workaholic, and Cher found she still had feelings for Sonny. This was a tough new woman who was not prepared to put up with anything she was not happy with. So the relationship with Geffen ended, and he became another name in the long list of men to be involved in her life. Even though the couple had split, it did not mean that their TV careers were over. Bono moved networks to ABC and created the Sonny Comedy Revue. The show made its debut in September 1974 and received a blasting from the critics. Around the same time, his ex-partner began shooting her own programme, simply entitled Cher. The show miraculously appeared as soon as Bono's had departed from the airways in mid-1975. The pilot got favourable comments and was given the green light. The series was based on a combination of interviews and performances, with rock stars such as David Bowie appearing. On June 27, 1975, Cher was finally given a divorce from Sonny Bono. On June 30th, the superstar married her new love, rocker Gregg Allman. The wedding took place in Las Vegas in front of 200 guests. Gregory Lenoir Allman sang with the Allman Brothers Band. Formed with his sibling Dwayne, the group had become extremely successful in the 60s. However, there were many tragedies in his past that would always haunt him. His father had been murdered, and his brother died in a motorcycle accident in 1971. Also, another band member lost his life the following year. This proved to be the final straw, tipping Gregg over the edge into a world of drug abuse and alcoholism. The relationship with Cher had started when she went to watch the group perform. He asked her out on a date, and she agreed. Over the next few months, a roller coaster affair developed, and the TV star was enjoying being in control. Throughout the marriage, she defended and backed up Allman in a desperate attempt to make it work. This was a fresh start, and there was no way she was going to lose her man to his addictions. Meanwhile, her solo career was starting to slide. After putting so much effort into the marriage, the professional commitments began to suffer. Out of the blue, Cher called Sonny and asked him whether he fancied doing another show with her. Although stunned by the offer, Bono was in no position to turn the request down, and he accepted. This new development put an additional strain on her turbulent marriage with Allman, as he had always felt threatened by the ex-couple's close bond. Despite being pregnant with a second child, Cher started recording. This created great interest from the press and fans. However, after the initial hype died down, so did the ratings, and the programme only lasted a couple of seasons. By 1977, the dream duo were finished, and this time it was for good. July 1976 had seen the birth of Cher's son, Elijah Blue. She felt that their child would cement their love and help Gregg to face up to his responsibilities. In August of 1977, he entered the Silver Hills Foundation Rehabilitation Center, New Canaan, Connecticut. The troublesome rocker responded well to the treatment, and it would seem that finally the relationship had a chance. Now it was time to make music.
I'm really good on the spot at making decisions, but I never plan stuff. I know what I'm doing for the next couple of months.
The pair set about recording an album entitled To the Hard Way. The public didn't share the couple's enthusiasm, as they had a difficult time trying to accept the new Cher. Despite her craving to become a rocker, the fans wanted more of the lovable queen of pop. To the Hard Way was a total flop, as was the tour set up to promote it. This really became too much for Ullman, and he turned back to the booze to ease the pain of failure. Cher now feared that it wouldn't be long before the drugs were back on the scene as well. It was time to get out, as the ambitious singer couldn't handle any more broken promises. So taking her 2 children, she left and filed for divorce. She would never remarry again. Throughout her life, one ambition had still remained unfulfilled, and this was to be a serious actress. The dream had previously been squashed by Bono, who felt it was better to concentrate on the music. After the breakup of the second marriage, it was time for a change of scene. Leaving behind the backstabbing LA, Cher headed for the Big Apple. She soon fell in love with New York City. People responded well to her presence and were very welcoming. They liked the fact that there was a major star in town. While struggling to find an apartment, a friend, Gene Simmons, offered sanctuary in her home. Under financial pressure from the move, a break arrived in the shape of a Broadway production, Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean. The play is set in a Woolworth store in a small Texas town, McCarthy. Several women who, 20 years before, were avid members of the James Dean fan club are reunited. Cher plays the part of Sissy, who works as the counter waitress. During the reunion, each girl takes it in turn to tell fabricated stories about their lives in a desperate attempt to outdo one another. Despite not being a hit with the critics, every performance went down well with the crowd. It also gave the budding actress invaluable experience and exposure into the world she aspired to conquer. During the rehearsals, however, not everything went according to plan. There was one incident that almost had tragic consequences. Whilst taking some vitamins, one of the pills became lodged in Cher's throat. Rushing towards Alan Altman, the play director, she began to panic. He tried to perform the Heimlich manoeuvre, but only resulted in creating a small breathing space in her windpipe. They leapt into the nearest taxi and headed for the hospital. On arrival, the drama was over as the pill had worked its way loose. Needless to say, the ruffled star decided to take vitamins in liquid form from then on. The play enabled Cher to move from one career opportunity to another. Director Mike Nichols watched a matinee performance of the musical and was very impressed with what he saw. Having the perfect role in mind, the director most famous for the film The Graduate approached the budding actress about his new film, Silkwood. The picture is based on the true life of Karen Silkwood, a Cimarron plutonium fuel plant worker. Run by the McGee Corporation, the production factory is set in Crescent, Oklahoma. The movie tells the tale of Silkwood's efforts to expose the dangerous working environment that she and her colleagues were subjected to. However, en route to meet a New York Times reporter with groundbreaking evidence, a fatal car accident took place, resulting in the loss of her life and, strangely, the files as well. Right from the start of the shoot, Cher suffered from apprehension. This was due to the fact that Meryl Streep had been cast for the lead role, and Kurt Russell was co-starring. However, her nerves were soon calmed when the frightened star realised that Streep was just as anxious about meeting the Queen of Pop. Director Nichols had an extremely calming influence on the star and guided her through the movie. She found it very difficult to perform in front of the cameras, and the makeup artist had to make a concerted effort to produce an ordinary-looking woman. The ordeal brought back memories of being a pubescent, pimpled teenager that she longed to forget. On release in 1982, the picture caused quite a stir, as many believed it stretched the truth somewhat. Although Cher's role is a small one, it's nevertheless poignant. Her performance received good reviews and illustrated her growing confidence as an actress. She had now stamped her mark upon the industry and was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. However, the trophy eventually ended up in the arms of Linda Hunt for her excellent performance in The Year of Living Dangerously. Cher did win a consolation prize, the Golden Globe Award, but against the Oscar it didn't really compare. Nonetheless, now it seemed that the doors really had started to open, as another movie was just around the corner.
I'm really happy with what I'm doing, and if I got an award or a nomination, it would make it better. And if I don't, it's okay.
In the mid-1980s, a writer called Anne Hamilton Phelan visited the UCLA's Center for Genetic Research looking for new material. It is here that she bumped into a sweet young boy called Rocky Dennis. His story touched her so deeply that she knew it had to be made into a film. The boy suffered from craniodiaphyseal dysplasia, a congenital illness that overloads calcium deposits in the skull, turning him into a modern-day elephant man. However, his mother Rusty was determined for her son to live a short but normal life. There was no way he was going into a special school, to be locked up like some freak. They drew up a script and began casting. Cher had no real problems with landing the lead role as the mother, whilst Eric Stoltz played Rocky. Although she had led a completely different life to that of Rusty, the Californian singer felt a number of similarities between the two. Both were tough and outspoken and were not conventional parents, although they had an undying love for their children. Cher was so touched by the story that since the movie she has been involved with the National Craniofacial Foundation, which is a charitable organisation to help sufferers such as Rocky Dennis. After being nurtured by Nichols and Altman, Cher found the toughest challenge to date in the shape of director Peter Bogdanovich. He had set ideals about how the characters should be played. The fiery actress had other views, and the pair clashed on several occasions. A far better relationship had developed with co-star Eric Stoltz. The couple became very close, and had often been seen cuddling up to one another. Many felt that the pair were having an affair, which was something that they strongly denied. Yet Stoltz was in awe of this tough, confident woman, and he loved her straight-talking demeanour. Even though the rumours circulated, it is still not evident whether there was anything physical between the two. During the movie's release at the Cannes Film Festival, Cher and the director were at each other's throats again. Universal wanted to cut certain scenes from the picture, and they had also encountered difficulty with getting the rights to Bruce Springsteen songs. The Boss had been Rocky's favourite, and it only seemed appropriate that it was his music that was used. Bogdanovich accused Cher of not helping to publicise the picture or use any of her music industry contacts. There were also quarrels over money, as the real Rusty Dennis felt cheated by the fee she received for her story. The film was released in the US in 1985 and received mixed reviews. The leading lady, however, received favourable comments from the critics. Out of the turmoil came joy. Cher was nominated Best Actress, but in the end had to share the award with Argentine actress Norma Alendro. Needless to say, the absence of a second trophy caused some commotion, as did the revealing outfit that Cher wore to collect the prize. Once again nominated for an Oscar, she had arrived expecting to win. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, much to her bitter disappointment. Nevertheless, she had learnt even more about the industry and had dug deep into her strength of character when things were tough going. At the peak of this success, Cher took the unusual decision to take a break. After making 2 big pictures and being nominated for the Academy Award, most would have continued whilst the going was good. Not for this girl. She was in need of fun, and that always came in the form of men.
You know, I'm dyslexic, and so when I'm reading things, it's real slow.
Cher still hadn't discovered the truth about men, but it didn't deter her from trying to find out. Concentrating this time on younger men, the Golden Globe winner enjoyed their warmth and freedom. Throughout the 80s, surrounded by her girlfriends, she moved from one relationship to another. Her first catch in the Big Apple was a handsome New York Rangers hockey star, Ron Duagwai. Despite the great sex appeal, a spark didn't exactly ignite between the two, and the affair soon fizzled out. One Valentine's Day, the gold-selling singer was invited to appear at the Night of 100 Stars, held at the Radio City Music Hall. It was at the event that she met her next man, the 29-year-old singer-composer John Loeffler. He was a strong and blunt character, and stated he found Cher more attractive without the makeup. He also offered to take her from all the glitz and glamour and whisk her away on his motorcycle. Although the offer was appealing, another man had entered the fray. John Hurd was a dashing young actor who had previously been married to Superman star Lois Lane actress Margot Kidder. The wedded bliss did not last long, and the couple soon parted company. Now Cher had two stunning blondes in her life and found it very difficult to choose. At 36, she resembled a child in a sweet shop, enjoying all of its wonderful selection. Eventually, the romances died down, and nothing serious came of the affairs. Soon, the multi-talented star fell for an up-and-coming actor called Val Kilmer. In her eyes, he had it all: looks, talent, and brains. He'd published poetry, had a strong viewpoint on social issues, and a fantastic acting ability. Kilmer would later go on to make box office smashes such as Top Gun, Willow, and The Doors. The relationship was good, and they spent many wonderful moments together. Unfortunately, the pair were heading in different directions. At 24, Val began to climb the ladder, which Cher had already scaled. With another man out of her life, Joshua Donan filled the gap. He worked for the prestigious William Morris Agency, and his clients included the likes of Kilmer, David Bowie, and Tim Curry. They met through a project Cher wanted to work on, which was a remake of the film A Star is Born. The relationship lasted a couple of years, and they enjoyed wonderful holidays and great times together. Unfortunately, the bliss was spoilt when Josh suggested marriage. Cher had been down that path before and was having too much fun to be tied down again. The romance slowed and the lovers drifted apart. At this point, Cher experienced a major shock. Her daughter had been struggling with school, but being a proud mother, she would not accept it was due to lack of intelligence. Cher took Chastity to see a doctor for some tests, and it was discovered that both daughter and mother suffered from dyslexia. It was through this disorder that the established actress met another sufferer in the form of Tom Cruise. They encountered each other at a fundraising event and swapped stories of how they had each struggled. Soon, the romance started to blossom. However, at the same time, Cruise was dating Mimi Rogers, and later they married, which obviously ended his brief affair with Cher. Tom later divorced Rogers, but went on to become one of Hollywood's biggest names. A list of further lovers followed, including Robert Camilletti, an aspiring actor, and Richie Sambora, who was the talented lead guitarist for the group Bon Jovi. Despite the many boyfriends, Cher found it difficult to find her ideal man, but she still had a hell of a great time looking. During her busy social life, she also managed to remain active on the business front. Constantly receiving and reading scripts, she rejected a number of movies including Black Widow, Baby Boom, Fatal Beauty, and a remake of King Kong. However, she did accept a picture entitled The Witches of Eastwick, standing side by side with famous names Jack Nicholson, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Susan Sarandon. The story is about three divorcees that have special powers and enjoy meeting each week to discuss their magic. Into their lives arrives a stranger, Daryl Van Horn, played by Nicholson, who quickly becomes sexually involved with all three women. The film did little for her credibility and was shrouded in controversy, as the fiery actress came head-to-head with director George Miller. Ironically, it did well at the box office when it opened in 1987, but once again, the critics hated it. Her next venture proved to be light relief after the difficult filming of The Witches. Suspect was directed by Peter Yates and included another star-studded cast, including Liam Neeson, who plays a mute homeless person, and Dennis Quaid, who is a juror called Eddie Sanger. Cher takes the role of Kathleen Riley, the lawyer acting for Neeson, who is on charge for murder. She enters into a relationship with Sanger, which almost destroys the case. The film did not get much credit, and the critics had mixed feelings about her performance. Yet it was still more excellent experience for the multi-talented actress to be working with such leading names. The next movie on Cher's now impressive resume was Moonstruck. This turned out to be a brilliant career move. She plays the character Loretta, who is engaged to one man but falls for his brother when she meets him. Also starring Nicolas Cage, the movie turned out to be a real crowd pleaser and was loved by all. In 1989, she went on to win the Academy Award for Best Actress for this film, finally achieving the recognition and Oscar she had craved.
I'm like really old and very wise, or I'm 14 and this is the first time I ever did the thing that I'm doing.
At this point in her career, she felt it was time to return to the recording studios. She released the single I Found Someone, which reached number 5 in the UK charts. The Heart of Stone album followed this success, and Cher performed in live concerts after 10 years away from the stage. The tour sold out in 35 US cities and also 3 in the UK. Her career was at a pinnacle, and her fame was now universal. In the same year as her Oscar triumph, she accepted another film titled Mermaids. In this movie, Cher plays Mrs. Flax, a single mother of 2 young girls. 15-year-old Charlotte is played by Winona Ryder, and Christina Ricci was cast as 9-year-old Kate. The family is constantly on the move due to the mother's continual love affairs. Bob Hoskins plays Lou Lansky and is the new man in her life. The picture is a family film, and although there was deep bonding between the girls, the shooting proved to be long and difficult. The movie saw 3 directors come and go, and by the time it was completed, Cher felt exhausted. The critical reviews for the movie were mixed. Some loved it, whilst others hated it. Yet again, it proved to be a box office smash. Riding on the success of the film, she released the Shoop Shoop song, featuring Ryder and Ricci in the video. It proved to be a winner in the UK charts, and stayed at number 1 for 5 weeks. Keeping herself busy, she recorded the album Love Hurts, and it again reached number 1 in the UK charts, maintaining its position for 6 weeks. Cher had taken quite a break from the film industry, and didn't appear in a major picture again until 1996. The movie, entitled Faithful, saw her playing the role of Margaret O'Donnell. She is a happily married woman, but after a phone conversation with her husband, finds herself being attacked by a hired killer. His employer is her lover, and a dark and treacherous plot begins to unravel. It proved to be another excellent film, with Cher reverting back to her comical side. The critics once again had mixed feelings, and it was now clear that you either loved or hated the fast-talking, hard-hitting star. 1996 saw her take a stand the other side of the camera, as she tried her luck at directing the movie If These Walls Could Talk. The picture tackles the difficult subject of abortion and stars Demi Moore and Sissy Spacek, with Cher in a supporting role as Dr. Beth. When she first arrived on set, the singer was petrified. Knowing full well the demands on directors, she could only pray that she made the right decisions. Everything was down to her, from costumes to lighting and camera angles. It was a very stressful experience, but one that Cher thoroughly enjoyed. The film received one of the highest ratings for an HBO movie and is amongst her finest work to date. On January the 5th, 1998, Cher received news that stunned her and shocked the world. Sonny Bono had died. He was killed in a tragic skiing accident. At the time, Cher was in England, but she flew straight back to LA as soon as she found out. It was a tragic period for the star, as she had lost her one-time husband, father, mentor, and friend. The funeral went out live on CNN as America and the family mourned the loss of their dearest Bono. In 1999, it was time to return to the right side of the camera, in the picture Tea with Mussolini. Cher plays an American adventuress with numerous ex-husbands. The cast includes Joan Plowright, Judi Dench, Maggie Smith, and Lily Tomlin. In yet another comedy, Cher is surrounded by excellent performances as she stars in another enjoyable movie. The Oscar winner continued to record throughout the 90s, seemingly never without some kind of project. She released hits such as Many Rivers to Cross, featuring cartoon characters Beavis and Butthead. Also in 1995, she contributed to the UK's Red Nose Day, recording the single Love Can Build a Bridge, with Eric Clapton, Chrissie Hynde and Nina Cherry. In 1998, she had another British #1 with Believe, as her fame and success continued to climb to extraordinary heights. The single shattered UK sales records, accumulating a massive 1.7 million turnover. Being a strong believer in healthy body, healthy mind, Cher watches what she eats and keeps to a tough fitness regime. Over the years, she has been an example to us all and is the personification of determination and hard work. She has fought her way to the top against the background of two-faced, backstabbing LA and built a career that many could only dream of. Born Cherilyn Sarkisian, she has created the living legend which millions of fans worldwide adore. Cher is, quite simply, the unstoppable queen of pop.
Thank you for buying Maximum Share. We hope you enjoyed it. Watch out for further titles on Chrome Dreams coming up soon. If you did enjoy it, or have any comments or suggestions, write to us at Chrome Dreams, PO Box 230, New Malden, Surrey, UK, KT3 6YY, and tell us so. We've got free copies of our next release for the best letters, so don't forget to include your name and address. Thanks again for listening, and goodbye for now.